We're a week into March here in Magnolia Bend, and as the soil temps warm up, our established boysenberry plants have started pushing new green growth and forming their first flower buds. So now let's talk about how we fertilize these things. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some of this rock phosphate. Now, long-term phosphorus availability helps the plants do a number of things. They can build stronger root systems, they can grow stronger canes, the part above ground, and they also can form flowers a little bit easier. It does a lot of different stuff for the plants. But the thing about rock phosphate is it breaks down very slowly. And until it breaks down, the plants can't use it. So my strategy with it here is I'm trying to add a little bit every year so that it's building up the reserve of rock phosphate in the soil, and a little bit more is being broken down every year for the plants to use. Now, to get it to break down faster, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this grass mulch back just a little bit so that I can actually see the soil, because I want the rock phosphate to contact the soil. Number one, the microbes can reach it there and break it down, but also it helps if it's slightly acidic environment, and our soil is acidic, so I just need it to be in contact with the soil for it to really start breaking down. And I'm not really going to measure it, but I'm also not going to put that much. I'm just going to sprinkle, like, I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably about a tablespoon or two, about 8 to 10 inches away from the crown of the plant. You don't want to put any fertilizer right up by the stem. That's never usually a good idea. And then I'm just going to cover it back up. And that phosphate will slowly, and I mean like over the course of months or even a year plus, slowly break down and become available for the plants to use. So I'm going to do that roughly around the crown of each plant. Okay, the next thing I'm going to add is some of this potassium sulfate. Potassium is probably the best thing you could add at this time of year when the plants are about to fruit, because they need a lot of potassium to do that. It affects flower development and fruit set, but also things like how big the berries get and how sweet they are. So if you're going to add one thing in the early spring, make sure it's a little bit of potassium. And all I'm going to do here is add a tablespoon or two for each plant. This we're going to water in, so I don't care if I put it on top of the mulch, but I still don't want to get it too close to the stems. So I'm just going to kind of go, these plants are kind of crowded in here, but I'm just going to kind of go in between them. It don't got to be exact. Just kind of sprinkle it around in between the plants. Okay, the only thing left to do is to water our fertilizer in. I've got some water here to which I've already added a very tiny amount of that S.T.E.M Micronutrients, maybe a pinch per gallon, and we're just gonna water it in with that so that everything gets pulled down into the soil and available for the plants to use. So here's our boysenberry seedlings that we planted last year. They haven't started pushing new growth yet, which isn't unusual because their crowns are relatively small compared to the established plants, but they will soon because the soil temperature is really heating up. So what I want to do with these is start building up their phosphate reserves as well, because I didn't add any when I built this bed. So I'm just going to do that now. Pull a little bit of this mulch back around them. Like this. Something like that. So that stuff can contact the soil. Then I'll just sprinkle a little rock phosphate around them in a little ring. That's it. And cover them back up. With established plants, you really don't want to give them any nitrogen this time of year because they don't need it to make the fruit. And what it's going to do is encourage them to push a lot of green growth and make the canes really long, and they can break in the wind, and it's just unnecessary right now. However, with these seedlings, they're not about to make any fruit. All they're going to do is green growth this year. So I'm going to give them a little bit of nitrogen in the form of 250 milliliters or so of urine per gallon of water. I've also got just a tiny amount of that micronutrients mixed in. Because our soil is so sandy and nutrient deficient, I kind of need to. You may or may not need to use that stuff, but we definitely do. So I'm just going to water that rock phosphate in a little bit with that mix of water, urine, and a tiny amount of micronutrients. Okay, covering back up so the deer don't get too adventurous. All right, that's all there is to it. We'll revisit these when they start fruiting.